Hi children, we continue with our fourth chapter, Materials, Metals and Non-Metals. In the previous class, we discussed the physical properties of metals. Today, we will see the physical properties of non-metals and also actually the same properties. The last class you learned certain properties of metals, the same properties we will write for non-metals, and after that we will compare the physical properties of metals and non-metals. Physical properties of non-metals. First property, appearance. Under metals we learned that metals are lustrous or shiny in appearance. But non-metals are dull in appearance. Generally non-metals are not shiny, they have a dull appearance. They are not lustrous, instead they have a dull appearance. But there is an exception, a metal called iodine. This is a lustrous non-metal. So generally non-metals do not have luster, they are dull in appearance, but iodine is an exception. It is a lustrous non-metal. Now, second one is physical state. In which state non-metals generally exist? In which physical state non-metals generally exist? So, non-metals can exist in solid state, liquid state or in gaseous state. So, non-metals can exist in solid state, liquid state and in gaseous state. Solid state examples are carbon. So, children, all these are examples of non-metals. In solid state, non-metals exist as carbon, sulfur. These non-metals exist in solid state. Then there is a liquid non-metal. This is the only liquid non-metal, that is bromine. And in gaseous state, we have many non-metals. Most of the non-metals exist in gaseous state like hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. All these are non-metals which exist in gaseous state. So, unlike metals, non-metals can exist in solid state, liquid state and in gaseous state. Examples of non-metals existing in solid state are carbon and sulfur, and liquid state there is only one example, that is bromine. Gaseous state we have many, learn one or two, hydrogen, oxygen, then nitrogen is there, chlorine, all these are non-metals existing in gaseous state. Now, the third property, conductivity of heat and electricity. Conductivity of heat and electricity. Generally, non-metals are poor conductors of heat and electricity. Metals are good conductors of heat and electricity, but non-metals are poor conductors of heat and electricity. Okay, there is an exception, graphite. This is made up of a non-metal carbon. Graphite is made up of non-metal carbon. This is a very good conductor of electricity. This is a very good conductor of electricity. Graphite is a very good conductor of electricity. So, that is the exception. Except graphite, all non-metals are poor conductors of heat and electricity, but graphite, which is a form of carbon, form of non-metal carbon, which is a form of non-metal carbon, is a very good conductor of electricity. So, this is an important question, a non-metal which conduct electricity. Generally, non-metals are poor conductors, but this is an exception. Graphite is a very good conductor of electricity. Now, hardness. Non-metals are generally soft. Non-metals are generally soft, but there is an exception. Diamond. Diamond is the hardest substance known. Diamond is the hardest substance known. It is made up of a non-metal. It is another form of carbon. Diamond is made up of the non-metal carbon. It is the hardest substance known. So, with the exception of diamond, non-metals are generally soft. Diamond, which is the hardest substance known, is made up of a non-metal carbon. Okay. Now, the next property, we will write it together. For metals, we wrote malleability and ductility separately. Here, we will write it together. Malleability and ductility. Malleability and ductility. Non-metals are neither malleable nor ductile. They are not malleable and they are not ductile. They are neither malleable nor ductile. We call them as brittle substances. Brittle means the substances which break easily. So, non-metals are neither malleable nor ductile, rather they are brittle, they break easily. And the last property, sonority. So, here we can see that the same properties we are discussing for metals and non-metals. Non-metals are non-sonorous. What is sonority? The property by which metals produce a ringing sound when struck hard. That is sonority. Here they do not produce a ringing sound. They are non-sonorous. Okay. So, these are the physical properties of non-metals. Non-metals are dull in appearance with the exception of iodine, which is a lustrous non-metal. Then regarding the physical state, they can exist in solid state, liquid state and gaseous state. Examples are given for all these states. Solid state, it is carbon and sulfur. Liquid state, bromine. Actually, bromine is the only liquid non-metal. Gaseous state, we have many examples: hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, chlorine, etc. Now, hardness, generally non-metals are soft, but diamond, which is made up of a non-metal carbon, is the hardest substance known. Then conductivity of heat and electricity. They are poor conductors of heat and electricity, but there is an exception. Graphite, which is made up of carbon, a non-metal, is a very good conductor of electricity. Then malleability and ductility, the property by which materials can be made into sheets and wires. They are neither malleable nor ductile. Instead, they are brittle. They break easily. Then sonority, they are non-sonorous. They do not produce a ringing sound. Okay. Now, what are the examples of non-metals? Carbon, sulfur, bromine, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. Several examples we have written under these properties. All those are examples of non-metals. Okay. Now, we will just compare the physical properties of metals and non-metals. The property, just in a tabular form, we can compare the properties of metals and non-metals. Metal, this is an important question. Compare the physical properties of metals and non-metals. First property, appearance. What can we write under the table? Metals are lustrous in appearance, non-metals are dull. You need not write the exceptions in this table, just the general properties we compare. So, appearance, metals are lustrous, non-metals are dull. Then, physical state. Metals are solids, non-metals can be solids, liquids and gases. They can exist in solid state, liquid state and in gaseous state. Third one is hardness. Metals are hard and strong. Non-metals are soft. Generally they are soft. Then, regarding conductivity. Conductivity of heat and electricity. Metals are good conductors. Non-metals are poor conductors. Then, malleability and ductility. That is the property by which materials are made into sheets and wires. Metals, they are malleable and ductile. Non-metals are brittle. They are neither malleable nor ductile. They are brittle. They break easily. One more property is there. Sonority. 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 Metals are sonorous. Non-metals are non-sonorous. So, these are the differences between metals and non-metals on the basis of their physical properties. I hope it is clear to you. Now, there is one more small topic, metalloids. So, we learned about metals and non-metals. Metals have a particular set of properties, non-metals have different types of properties. There are a few elements which show the properties of both metals and non-metals. In some properties they resemble metals, but in some properties they resemble non-metals. So, those elements cannot be placed under metals or non-metals. So, some properties are similar to metals. So, if they are placing them under metals, some properties they are not similar to metals. Those are the properties of non-metals. So, what can be done? They are placed in a separate group called metalloids. The elements which show the properties of both metals and non-metals are known as metalloids. The elements which show the properties of both metals and non-metals are known as metalloids. Examples are boron, silicon, arsenic, antimony and germanium. Please learn these names: boron, silicon, arsenic, antimony and germanium. These are known as metalloids. What are metalloids? The elements which show the properties of both metals and non-metals, or we can say that they have intermediate properties between metals and non-metals. Some properties are similar to metals, some are similar to non-metals. We call them as metalloids. 5 examples you have to learn. There are 2 more. Total 7 metalloids are there. Time being you learn only 5: boron, silicon, arsenic, antimony and germanium. Okay. So, that is all. Thank you children.